how to access and navigate the QUBES Educational Library resources. So let's see if I can advance here. We're going to hit a couple of things. Just a really quick orientation to the library itself, a little bit about how to get there from the homepage of the QUBES site. And then we'll spend a little bit of time on the basic resource record, right? This is the metadata around the publication itself, because there's a lot of information there and it can be very helpful for navigation. And then because this is an open education resources publishing platform, we'll address some issues about versions and adaptations very briefly. Again, we're trying to keep this light, but there's more information on that if you're interested. Then we will turn to CourseSource resources. We've recently collaborated with the CourseSource journal, and there's just a slightly different look and feel, which can be confusing, so we want to address that. And then we'll have a few opportunities to learn and ask questions and go forward from there. When we get this video posted, you'll be able to go to the description of the video and jump to the various sections just to speed things up. Okay, so the QUBES Resource Library is open, adaptable, and free, right? It was built as an open education resources collection from the beginning. Most of the authors who publish in it recognize that and choose open licenses that provide a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do. These are submitted by faculty. They're your colleagues, they're your peers, and it's an opportunity for them to share their scholarship. The fact that they are open education resources embeds them in this OER life cycle. And so not only do they reduce costs for students and sort of ease of access for faculty, the ability to customize things, but they also can be used to advance yourself professionally if you use these materials, customize them, and then republish them. You have a concrete product that you can point to on your annual activity report or your CV. So very briefly, we currently have over 1,500 different educational resources in the library. It's really a living collection because it is open education resources. Things are being versioned and adapted regularly, and QUBES and BioQuest foster a consortium of different projects and communities. And those projects and communities are using this library as the output for their scholarship. So things are changing pretty rapidly. I'm going to do a few slides, sort of getting us oriented, and then I'll jump into a live demo to give you a little bit better look and feel from the web itself. So to get to the QUBES library from the home page, you're going to use the resources button, these navigation options of resources, community, and services. And there are some additional things that I've cut off, which are interesting, like our newsletter and help system that are further to the right. But this menu structure and navigation options are consistent when you're in a QUBES page. As I said, BioQuest and QUBES support a constellation of different projects. And so when you end up in a project space, here's a little clip of the top of the BioQuest group space, you'll lose this QUBES navigation, but you can always get back to it by clicking on the Powered by QUBES link at the top of any group page. So if you get embedded into a group and you get a little bit lost, you can jump back out to the QUBES level. So when you click on resources, you can see it's got the green underline here. Then you'll come to this page where you have options to browse resources, learn a little bit more about open education resources, or begin the process of submitting a resource. And in this interface, it's pretty simplistic. You're looking at the most recently published resources, and you have a free text search bar where you can enter in some text. And when you hit search, you'll get a updated list. And this is a sort of what we call a list view of the resource. We've got the title, some information about when it was published and the authorship, and a very brief introduction or summary of that. When you follow that link by clicking on the title to go to a full resource record, right? This is the complete metadata around that resource. And we're going to take just a minute here to do a little orientation, and then we'll go out and do a live tour through. So here we are looking at the BioSkills guide resource. And in the center here, sort of running vertically, we have the core bibliographic data. So things like title, authors, affiliations, a brief summary, license information, version information, descriptive tags, etc. So the core bibliographic information is right in the middle there. Most people, when they find something, want to take a look at it. And there are two primary options for that. You can click on the download button to download a zipped package of all those files included with the resource. Or you can, under the contents area on the right, choose individual files to download by clicking on them. So again, this is a very introductory tour. The richness of these complete resource records is that we've tried to contextualize the resource a little bit more around where it sort of came from. So here are a couple of ways that you can find related resources by looking at other aspects of the resource record. An author who has a hyperlinked name can be navigated to see if they've published other materials. That's always a good strategy to use. The materials are published by a group, so it has to come from somewhere. And so oftentimes going to that group will lead you to other resources that are related or similar. And then you can use the tags to find additional related resources. And I'll demo all of these when we go to the live section. Now, all of this can be done without logging into QUBES. However, we suggest that you get an account and log into your account. You can see that I'm logged in because of my little icon here, my little picture. And because I've logged in, I have a couple of additional options. I can collect this resource into a space where I can access it easily from my profile. I can make that collection public or keep it private. I can have multiple collections. So we'll do a whole nother webinar on collections sometime. You can click to watch a resource, which means that you're monitoring it. And if it gets changed, updated, then you will get an email indicating that. And if you're logged in, then you'll have the option to adapt that resource. And that would be an entirely another webinar, but that you might want to take this content, customize it for your own teaching context, and then republish it. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to, let's see if I can do this cleanly. I think I'm just gonna, are you, when I changed tabs, you're still following me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, thanks. So I'm going to get to a resource in a slightly different way. I'm now visiting the Neon group, National Ecological Observatory Network, right? This is a big national organization, but they wanted to have a presence on QUBES, a place where they could share resources and draw people to their materials. So we're looking at the NEON homepage. So it's a group page, and it, as I said, if I wanted to go back to the homepage, there's the option to go back here under the Powered by QUBES button. But within their group, they've listed some resources that they've published. So I'm going to go take a look at those. Now, we were looking at resource records earlier, and I will go back to the main entry point also, so you can see that, which I had in my slides. Now we're looking at a card view. And so I can click on what's called the hamburger menu, and it gives me a little bit more information, a short version of the abstract, some more about the authors. And then I have some additional data about how frequently it's been downloaded and so forth that's available. So I'm going to go in here. I'm showing you my second demo. Doesn't matter. So here we are in a full resource record. So let me go back there to make sure. So I clicked on the title, which will take you to the full resource record. So now we've left the NEON group and we've gone to the library itself. And I've got my main bibliographic data right down the middle. Because I'm logged in, I have my options to watch. I'm not sure where my collect button went. I have to look into that. And then I've got the group that it came from. So if I had gotten to this record not from the NEON group, I would be able to find the NEON group by going back here. I've got the files that make up this record, or I could download the bundle. What I didn't show you in the slides was there's additional information down sort of below the fold. So if you think of a newspaper, when you look at the top above where that newspaper is folded, or the first view of your web page, we'd call that maybe the header or above the fold. And then if I scroll down a little bit, I can see some additional information about the contents of the files, adaptations that have been made, comments, and a longer description. Additionally, I should mention that if you are downloading and using this material, good OER practices involve citing that resource, right? These are authors who are sharing their materials, and they really appreciate the academic credit for it. So you can always, from the header, click on the Cite This, or you can jump down into the description, and it's at the bottom of the description. You get a full citation for that work with the document digital object identifier, DOI number, and some links that can jump you right back to it. So I just want to show a couple of things here. Here's Adrienne has her name linked, so we're able to go and look at her QUBES profile. To publish, you need to be a member of QUBES. You have to have an account by QUBES and BioQuest. And when I see this, I see that she has other contributions. And so I'm going to look, and it seems that she's been very active. So she's published a whole series of activities. And again, one of the keys to this library is trying to give you multiple points of access to get to different resources. So I'm going to come back out, and I'm going to go in here and take a look at, let's see, what shall we look at here? Let's look at data in the classroom. So I've clicked on the tag data in the classroom. You can see it's here, and I could add additional tags or swap it out if I wanted to. And I've got a list of materials here. Now, a little bit tricky is that this search is searching more than just the published resources. So if I go over here at the categories, I can see that it's found 2 resources. There are 6 members who have used this tag to describe themselves. There's some additional materials. Oh, I'm sorry, there are 25 resources. So here, now I'm just looking at publications that will have been tagged with the using data in the classroom, and I've jumped over to another resource that looks interesting to me, cleaning biodiversity data using Excel. So again, lots and lots of materials, different ways to find them, and it's just a matter of sort of practicing a little bit and navigating around. If the QUBES platform has had a win, it's that we have actually built an OER system that is fully functional with respect to version control. So we call it a Git-like system, but for people who aren't familiar with Git version control, it's really just being able to build relational links between resources. So if somebody, here the one I was using in the early example, the BioSkills guide, has gone through a series of 5 different versions. They come in, clean something up, change it around, and republish it. So when you go to that resource, you'll automatically be dropped into the latest version, but you can always go to the version history area and say you were teaching with it and you liked version 3, you can always get back to that. So this is the same author group updating the materials and usually sort of streamlining them, cleaning them up for versions. Adaptations is a modification of an original publication by another author. So someone has come in and they have taken materials and modified them and then republished them. And the key piece to this is that, I mean, that's open education resources, but we want to automatically track attribution. So you'll see displayed prominently on any adapted resource that it's adapted from, and then you get a link to the original resource. So authors who have published popular materials that have been adapted multiple times often look at impact data based on how many times it's been changed and how many times those changes have been viewed. And so it also makes it a fairly complex and messy system because with lots of adaptations, things can look very similar. And so one of those best practices that we're trying to foster in the community is using good change notes, right? What's the nature of the version? What's the change? Or what's the nature of the adaptation? Because we really don't want people to have to read through to find out that you changed it for a non-majors class from a majors class. That should be in the metadata somewhere. I'm going to jump out of there to kind of keep moving here and discuss very briefly our collaboration with CourseSource. CourseSource is a peer-reviewed, evidence-based teaching resource publication for undergraduate biology, and they are just launching their undergraduate physics education journal. They're being hosted on BioQuest and QUBES now. And when you go to the CourseSource homepage, which is just CourseSource.org, you have sort of 3 ways to get into their materials, their publications, which are part of the same library. You can browse by different courses. You can browse across courses, or you can just view the most recently published materials. The top one we see here looks like it was published, well, in October. If you choose the browse option, it's going to take you to a nice search and browse interface. And I'll tell you that this interface was developed in collaboration with CourseSource, and it is going to be applied to the full BioQuest QUBES library. So this ability to drill down and isolate things based on a whole lot of different metadata or free text searching or keyword searching is coming to the full QUBES collection. So here I've opened up Bloom's cognitive level. I've selected application and analysis. You can see that here, that filter shows up. And now I'm only viewing publications that have been tagged as application and analysis under Bloom's cognitive level. And again, these are representations of the publications. I can click on the title to go to the full record. In order to navigate by courses, so if you haven't looked at CourseSource, they went to various professional societies in biology and asked them to define a learning framework, describe the sort of the main learning objectives and how they're organized in that area. And then they tag all of their learning materials based on those learning frameworks. So here I've gone to bioinformatics by clicking on the courses button, and this gets exposed. I've scrolled down a little bit from the bioinformatics course page, or any course page. You'll be able to download that learning framework, which actually I find very helpful because it sort of gives an overview of the goals that the society recommends for teaching a course with this title. I've opened up one of those learning goals, DNA information storage, and I see a whole list of modules that are available for teaching resources. So this is using the course navigation, and I'll give you a tour of that right now. So I'm just going to go over here and type in CourseSource. Here we are in QUBES, but looking at the CourseSource homepage. We're in their group. Here's the browse option, which again takes us to the full-featured search and browse. So let's say that I was interested in something that was for introductory students. I've applied the introductory filter. You can see that the resources that are available have changed. Again, this is a card view, so you have a summary of that resource, some of the metadata stored there. And if I scroll down, it tells me I'm looking at 1 through 15 out of 147 different resources here. And I, of course, can change that display. Okay. I'm going to go back to the CourseSource homepage by clicking on the CourseSource logo and show you, while they list the courses here on their homepage, that's fine. I would recommend learning that this courses button holds the course menu, because on other pages they don't have it exposed. So I'm going to go in here, look at biochemistry. Here's the top of the biochemistry course page. So they collaborated with the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology to develop a learning framework for biochemistry and molecular biology. I could click on that to download that PDF. Variety of learning, broad learning goals, then some sample learning objectives within that, and the available tagged CourseSource articles. So I can follow one of those, and again, I'm back to the, now I'm at a full record, and you'll see that this record looks a little different than the other QUBES library records. Again, we're going to be upgrading the whole library to some of this look over time. And so again, you can navigate to sections of the document by clicking through the menu on the left, and it'll jump you to the areas that you're interested in. You can download those files and so forth. Okay, trying to keep it short here. There are a couple of additional resources. Deb, I meant to have you give the link to this slideshow so people could follow along, because I have a couple of embedded links. We have a survey asking people to recommend future webinar topics. We haven't talked about publishing, but that's something we could talk about as a group, and there are some support files for that. And with that, I'm going to finish the sort of presentation part of this so that we can save most of our time to have discussions and move forward. But I just wanted to flash up most of the BioQuest staff, because these are the folks who will be participating and helping out with these webinars. I recommend consider following us on Twitter and consider subscribing for the newsletter, and we'll get you this link so that you can do all of that.